7:02, we're gonna start the, 7:01, I stand corrected. We'll start the Dunbarton Board of Selectmen meeting for Thursday, April, help me out, April fifth. April fifth,
Yeah, 4-5.
yep, and, all right, we're gonna start off with some minutes from last week.
You don't wanna say who's here?
Well, yeah, we get the typical three selectmen are here, and we have, the town administrator here, and we have the wonderful, recording, specialist.
Specialist.
Leo Martel,
Cameraman.
and we also have, just for the record, the road agent is also in attendance as a town official. And, I think that's it, and we have, we're gonna have Jeff Trexler, member of the school board, arriving in about 2 minutes.
No,
Okay. Now entertain motions for old business.
motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on March 29th
I'll second that motion.
as amended, because I guess I made a few corrections.
Yeah, it was mostly, not substance, but more grammatical.
Okay,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. I'll let you sign first tonight.
I'll make a motion to accept the non-public March 29th, 8 PM sealed meeting minutes. Those weren't amended, I don't believe, right, Mike?
No.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion for the non-public March 29th, 8:10 PM, non-sealed minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I didn't hear it.
I was waiting for that. Okay.
Lean, these minutes were very good. Did a great job doing them.
Thank you.
I thought they were okay too.
I'm sorry you had to put up with my, my corrections.
I must have missed one of those, Mike, because I only signed 2.
Okay, send one back. 1, 2, should be 3. Oh, it's on the way back.
This one.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, that's because we gotta seal it.
Yep. Just have this, correct ones to be sealed. No. Make sure you get the right ones in the seal envelope, Lean, please.
Yeah, that'd be-
Yep, these are them.
Okay. And send that on back.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, guys.
We
Which
announced,
Jeff are you talking to?
we announced you before you came.
We documented it. We saw you walk in, and so we had you in the minutes. All right.
You ready?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm ready to go.
Okay,
We're gonna hold you here a little while longer.
Alright.
just a little bit. Just gotta sign that. I'm open up for public comment while we're signing that. Any, okay. Yeah, there's 2 gentlemen, you're on the agenda tonight, so we'll just, if you have nothing else for public comment, we'll just continue on. Okay, I'm closing public comment. And, first thing I'd like to, we have a reimbursement for damage to Tenny Hill Road. We have a check for reimbursement for damages.
Correct, I worked with the road agent to come up with a price for the damage that happened on Tenny Hill. We submitted that invoice to Lemon Builders, and he was able to get the concrete company to contribute 50% of it. It's not a lot of money, but it is money out of the highway department that was spent, that wouldn't have been spent if that damage hadn't occurred, so they did reimburse us the full amount that was invoiced. And the board has to decide,
Well, we'd make a motion to accept it first, and then we'd make a motion to determine how it should be spent.
correct, yep,
I'll make a motion to accept, the amount of $2,053.40. Per RSA 31:95-B, Roman numeral 3B.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay.
Any further discussion on that? Is that the total amount of the invoice?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And that's-
we will flex 50% from both parties.
Yeah, Robert Gronin, who runs Summit Excavating, which is a division of Landmark Town Builders, facilitated and making, he assured me that they would reimburse us
Okay,
for it when we had the problem.
Okay.
They stepped up to the plate.
2,000 is a total, they split
Yeah,
that.
and then he got a hold of the concrete company
very good,
and
and they
then
worked something
received
out
both.
between themselves and
okay.
Yeah.
cleaned up the checks.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No
Any other
questions.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now, the thing is, since this money, it's a small amount of money, and the thing is, it's been a rough winter, and this came directly out of his budget, I'd like to make a motion that this money be, basically, be allowed to be spent by the road agent.
We should put it back in this budget anyway.
Well, we can't really amend his budget, but we just allow him to spend that money.
I understand that.
That was, I wanna roll it over so he can utilize those funds.
Yep, I have no problem with that.
We'll make a motion. I make a motion that this money be returned to the road agent for execution.
Highway
Highway Department.
Highway,
I stand corrected.
please,
Makes it a little personal when it's a road agent.
please.
I'll reword that motion, I make a motion to return these monies for expenditure by the highway department.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
A little
Thank
bit,
you.
it's a little bit, it helps.
It's good.
Okay, we have another motion on the table, so I'll let you take care of that one.
Okay, I'll make a motion, these are for, monies from Wreaths Across Dunbarton. Per RSA 31:95-B, Roman numeral 3B, to accept, the amount of $31 as a donation, Wreaths Across Dunbarton.
I'll second your motion.
Here, any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Just, as a side note, that group got together this Saturday, did a good job, it took 45 minutes to basically clean all cemeteries and remove all the wreaths and move them on to the transfer station. So, they had about maybe 10 people here, it moved out smartly. Okay.
I'll make another motion.
Okay,
This one's for the Dunbarton Energy Committee. Per RSA 31:95-B3B, accept the donation of $200 for the Dunbarton Energy Committee.
And I'll second the motion.
any discussion on this, where's the money come from, just out of curiosity?
They have their annual, energy fair, and how they are able to raise funds is either to collect table
Table fees.
fees, or if they're in lieu of table fees, they can donate a prize that would be raffled off
Okay.
to the visitors, so
Okay,
this one opted to.
thank you, all in favor? Okay,
Hey, Lean, can we send an email back to them just in future reference? When they put their notice on the Dunbarton School board out front, I don't think a lot of people knew what the initials stood for.
I think the E fell down off and it was hanging down below,
But even if it's there, the initials don't really
yeah.
show what that meeting is about when you're driving by quick. A lot of times, they might think it's something for the school or something they can't do, so
Yeah,
I'm thinking if they can try and write that out on that sign, it might help.
yeah, I guess that would be something that have to be passed on to the school, cause they're the ones that put the letters out,
They do.
yeah.
I didn't know if he requested them or how they
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that.
they're probably trying to shorten it, but,
Maybe send it out to both of them.
yeah, we're supposed to put it up there, I don't know if they ever made it, but,
I just think, I drove by it several times and hadn't I been at these meetings, I wouldn't have known what that was.
yeah,
okay, good suggestion.
spell out, yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, Jeff, come on up. Welcome. You got two items.
What do you wanna talk about first?
Let's talk about the, tree, we can go, what's the order? Forensic auditor, forensic report? Yeah.
We met with our forensic auditor.
You didn't know you were coming this morning, huh?
Yeah.
I knew before you.
Met with our forensic auditor last night. At our monthly school board meeting. They're still in draft mode here, but within, I think, a week or two, they will complete their forensic audit. And this is just a quick summary that they had on the first page of their draft, which shows that the number that was appeared as our unassigned fund balance in our audit each year was not the same number that showed up on the Form MS-25 with the Department of Revenue Administration. And the variance is there, and that variance is a running total, that's not a cumulative total, but you look down at the very bottom, and we have on our books about $1,060,000 that we didn't know we had.
That's quite a variance.
That's a lot of variance.
This isn't the money from Goffstown.
No.
It is.
Yes, it
Well,
is.
it was, the error occurred while Goffstown was taking care of our books.
Okay.
And it's, everybody keeps saying it's hard to explain, and it really is, because I still don't quite understand all of it either, but apparently the DOE 25, Department of Education Form 25, that the business administrator fills out, it's like 40 pages long, it's an Excel spreadsheet. You can change things on that spreadsheet, it's not locked in where you have to put numbers in. And some numbers which should agree, don't agree, and they even found, our forensic auditor found that there's a formula error in one of the cells in there as well. But,
We have some of those that don't agree the way we line up our different divisions.
yeah,
So I'm familiar with what you're talking about, I think.
essentially, the auditor each year wasn't checking the MS-25. And the MS-25 is generated from the DOE 25 form. A lot of that is due to timing. Our audit occurs at a certain time, the MS-25 comes out later. But they really should be each year going back and looking at the prior year MS-25 to see how it lined up. Nobody ever did that, nobody's ever done that. It's not something that auditors typically do, although going forward.
I think it's
we will
been
be
2 or 3 years that they have, because I had to
Okay.
give access to my auditor to enter the portal that I enter and upload, so they can see what I
Yeah.
put, and then there's more clarity, but it's,
I think with our school district auditor and our contract with them, they weren't going back to look at this, but we will in the future.
oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So we have a lot of money that if we do nothing, becomes part of our unencumbered fund balance for this current fiscal year, which ends June 30th, which means it goes as revenue to offset our tax rate in October. It's about $3.50 on the tax rate. It's a huge chunk. We talked informally as a board last night and thought that it might be a good idea to ask the public if they want to look at some options for that money. There are ways that we can set up reserve funds where we could use that money instead of 1 year having our taxes go down a big jump and then next year skyrocket back up again. We could set aside a fund and take out maybe over 3 or 4 years a certain chunk to almost like a tax leveling type fund.
To offset maybe the
Yeah.
bond or whatnot.
Or make your bond payments for the next 5 years, something like that, as opposed to having the big steep jump up and down.
Going with your philosophy, you're trying to keep the tax level, still level.
Exactly, and maybe, you know, for this year, we shoot to use some of it so that we end up with no tax increase in October for this year. And then take the balance and put that in a fund and then depending upon how the public wants to use it. We would need to have a special school district meeting in order to appropriate this money. This would be an appropriation, any money that we put aside. for
Similar to
some
the
other
school board
purpose.
meeting where you come, you know.
Right, we have to go to the court to get court approval to hold a special school district meeting in order to appropriate additional money after our annual school district meeting. Our attorney says that shouldn't be a problem. This is clearly something we could not have foreseen and didn't know about, you know, months ago when we were doing our budget hearing and so forth. And so he said the courts will give us permission to hold that meeting. We're thinking, if we do that, that we would hold a special school district meeting in early September, so that whatever the results are of that meeting, we can then inform the Department of Revenue Administration, so that when it comes to tax setting time, they know what changes or additions or whatever have occurred since we filed our
Do you think
forms.
these numbers gonna be concrete by June?
It should be concrete in another couple of weeks. We
Really?
get a
Because I
full
know
audit.
that the auditor, they're doing a forensic audit in Goffstown. I haven't
Right.
heard anything and read anything in the paper.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
ours is, we're using Scott Egan, who is, I guess, from what we're told, he is the expert, he's the one that the auditors go to when they need audit help. So he's a forensic auditor with Plodgett and Sanderson. There is a potential that there could be discrepancies in our tuition payments to Goffstown as well. And I think we're not sure, could be up, could be down, the feeling is we may have overpaid. So we're gonna look into that as well, and that would be something that the lawyers would, and auditors would get together and figure all that stuff out. And
But we don't have many students left going to Goffstown, a handful.
we don't, but this could be back to like to 2007. There
Oh,
could
wow,
be-
so another major chunk of change.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
very good.
One challenge there is the area agreement that we were in up until 2014 had a clause that allowed the sending districts like Dunbarton to audit Goffstown's books, if we so choose, at our expense. That agreement, as we know, has expired. We went through the whole expiration deal with Goffstown. So we may not be able to go back during the old area agreement, but we've had students attending there from 2014-15. I think we still have 4 or 5 students there today. So there's a number of students, and that is under a new, it's a memorandum of understanding, but it ties to the current area agreement, which has its same clause in there. So we're gonna look into all that as well. But we want to let you folks know kind of like what we're thinking, get some feedback. Do you think it's a good idea? Oh, let me back up. Before we have any kind of a special school district meeting, we would want to have a public forum. Invite the public in, explain what's going on, explain what maybe some of the options are that could be considered, get some feedback before we even think about, first of all, having the district meeting or writing a warrant for that district meeting.
I can imagine if you go in there cold, you'd have 10 different options on the table.
Yeah, so we'd have some options we would bring forward to folks to think about, but the idea is, this is the public's money, let's see if they wanna do anything with it.
But I find 2 schools, if I was selling my house today, next week,
Yeah.
I'd want it all this year.
You want it right now, you bet.
And then if I'm gonna be a long-term resident of Dunbarton, it'd be nice to level out my taxes over the next several years.
Yeah, so there's, folks are gonna come from different directions on this, depending upon their personal situation,
Yeah.
but we think it's important to hear from people.
Very nice.
So we're looking at probably early June to have a public forum, once we get more of our
Final
information.
numbers in,
Excuse me?
once you get your final numbers in.
Yeah. So when we meet in May, we'll set that information up, we'll send a postcard out to every address in town again.
How can we help?
Well, I'll get it up on our website.
Yeah, just wanna make sure you're aware, and you can kind of spread the information right now. And you're right, when we have some dates, we'll come to you about helping us to advertise those dates.
Jeff, one thing I think will be important when you do have that preliminary meeting, obviously the bond is costing us some money, the interest is fairly low, but it's costing us some money. So if you look to pay down that bond or part of it or all of it, as this money gets used up, also might wanna share with them, if that's in a savings, how much that's collecting. It's not gonna collect as much as the
Right.
interest on the bond most
Right.
likely. But those 2 numbers might help weigh that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what our trustees are getting these days for money that goes into the trust account.
Right.
We cannot prepay
That
our
was my
bond.
question.
Oh,
The prepayment
We
penalty.
cannot, we cannot prepay the bond. The way, it's a municipal bond, it gets sold to individual buyers, and they buy it and they hold it until it's.
That was my
You
next
can't
question.
prepay principal or interest?
No,
10 years, a 10-year, 5 years, a 5-year.
yeah, it's a 10-year bond.
Yeah.
But what we could do is if we wanted to set this money aside, our bond payments, if you remember our schedule, are $200 and some odd thousand each year for the next, 4 or 5 years, and gradually goes down. So maybe this money could be set aside to make those bond payments
That would
each
be
year.
nice.
And then, it doesn't,
Then there's no impact really.
Right.
You're not inflating your operating budget to carry that money in the
Right.
operating budget. It's just offset with that.
and we would certainly track all of this separately from what we typically track, so that we're not trying to hide any spending through this other revenue source. We want to make sure that our operating budget is explained clearly compared to the prior year without, this additional revenue.
Because I knew this question didn't come up till the very end of your meeting, after we had already voted on some of the other things. I think,
Yeah.
had this question come up in the beginning, I might have changed some of those voters, so.
Yep. And because we had our board meeting the Wednesday prior to district meeting, and at that time, we hadn't even got a range. We weren't even sure where we were gonna be. And,
Even at the town meeting, the range was very clear.
At
Sure,
district,
you-
right,
You put a
district meeting.
caveat, you didn't promise anything.
Yeah, I mean, I went over to talk to Dwayne Ford. Did you hear from our auditor? Has he given us anything? He's reluctant to give us any kind of number, but he thinks it might be 600,000 to 800,000. That was the number I brought forward. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So,
Which is good news for the town.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I got a member of the public wants to.
Just curious, Jesse, where's this money now?
It's It's in an account, I mean, it's in our account.
The town, not Goffstown, Dunbarton.
It's Dunbarton.
They've already released the money to you?
It's not money that Goffstown has held, it's money that's always been in Dunbarton's
Dunbarton,
account. Because SAU 19 manages an account for Dunbarton, an account for Goffstown, an account for New Boston. They're not commingled.
Oh, okay.
So the way they were managing our account, and it's kind of on paper, how they were justifying things, we were accumulating money in our account that we shouldn't have. That
Right.
should have gone to reduce taxes every year.
That's why I was curious, because we're not in the area agreement anymore.
Correct.
And we've dissolved our SAU services. That's
That's
why I
correct.
want to aware that it's
Yeah.
almost like cyberspace.
Right, no, but it's our money,
It's
it's in
our-
our account, it's not someplace we have to go get it.
Okay, so there will be no argument with Goffstown.
Correct.
They'll accept the numbers.
And there's nothing really for Goffstown to do.
Yeah,
because
exactly,
it's-
yeah.
It's our money.
Well, that's
So
why-
these are kind of yearly numbers you see from your auditors, what's in that account.
Right,
You don't get to look it up like it's an account number per se,
Right.
it's paperwork.
yeah. And then, so what it is going to do for us is it's gonna put us in a bit of a cash bind that we haven't been in. We've had plenty of cash in our account for managing cash flow. But once this money comes off our books, now we've gotta be much more careful about money coming in, money coming out. We'll have to work with Lean about getting tax revenue
School
coming
payments,
in.
scheduled payments,
Yeah,
on time.
exactly.
Yeah.
To match what our cash flow is gonna be.
See, I had no idea that this was in your fund
Yeah,
and we were making our school payments, but you had a buffer, but
yeah.
you're not allowed to have more than a certain percentage, which
Correct.
nobody questioned, obviously.
Right. Yeah, well, the auditors didn't look at it, DOE they're a mess. The DRA is similarly, I mean, there's apparently a big meeting going on with Scott Egan, our auditor, and folks from DRA and DOE in a week or so to deal with this issue. That there's some real holes in our reporting process that allow this stuff to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Just don't let the state take it.
Yeah, yeah.
I have just one more question.
Mm-hmm.
The cash flow problem for the school side, not that you have a cash flow problem, but I understand what you're saying, you gotta be
We
a
have to
little
be more careful. Yeah.
more careful. How will that affect the town, and how the town does business?
We just have to have, see, because
Because
we
when they
don't,
get their payment, they'll need their payment. and they
well,
won't- they won't
I
have
think
it.
what I can see is that the treasurer will not be able to use, like, she tries to invest, she's been asked by the selectmen to try to make some money, so she'll put it in a CD bond that in 6 months it earns,
Yeah,
a couple $1,000s, not a
Yeah.
lot, but
Yeah.
it's better than just sitting there. And now she'll have to be careful not to
Have
take,
it liquid.
leave more in her,
I'm just curious how that works.
overall budget, because if that has to be paid out,
Yeah.
she needs the money there.
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you for bringing that to us. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, all right, you're on again.
Now, the tree, are we talking about the tree now?
Yeah, we'll talk about the tree now.
Okay. Did you go look at it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
big tree.
It's a big tree, rotted out in the middle, big pine, came down last night at some point.
I didn't know that,
I think-
by the parking lot?
Back by the sheds. It was during our school board meeting because our principal, who's parking down below there now, his car got clobbered.
Oh.
And it might be totaled, from what his insurance company's telling him. So, it's a big pine, there's three big pines, two now, right along the edge between the original leach field and the fire road. And this one, of course, headed east from that west wind and caught a couple of the sheds. It looks like it poked a hole in the roof of the one that the rec commission is using. Took off some siding on some of the others. Dwayne Ford, our business administrator, has already contacted Primex, our insurer, and is ready to file a claim for damages to the shed, damages to the vehicle, and also cleanup and removal of the tree.
What
So,
time did this come down, Jeff?
sometime before 9:30 last night.
And his car was still there?
Our board meeting went till 9:30 last
Oh,
night.
was that, he walked out of the board and had his.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
He thought he'd be able to drive home, and then one of the other guys went down and said, "No, your whole windshield's loose." And-
We've got pictures of it.
Yeah, yeah. So, if the town would be so kind and available to take care of cleaning up the tree, keep track of your costs, bill the school district, and we'll add it to our claim.
That sounds fine. I mean, in the past, when we've had trees come down that were not an insurance issue, we've gone over and cleaned them up.
Yeah.
So that won't be a problem, we'll just keep track of the time.
You need the money this year, Jeff.
Yeah,
No, I mean, if the insurance money is available, we should accept
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
But if not, we
If we're gonna put a claim in,
It's
I mean,
on the ground, so
Yeah.
that's, for us, that's an easy tree.
I got an email from Will Johnson, and he's expecting a call from me for that shed, but isn't that school property? We've never bought a shed.
Actually, the town has, yeah. I think 2 of those are owned by the town, and 2 are owned by the school. And, but because it's on school property, we're considering it school property, and so we're filing the claim. Regardless of who paid for it, it's
Okay.
a building on school property.
Now, with the penetration, is there any stuff in there that needs to be protected for?
I don't know. I didn't even look to see
We're getting,
what was the penetration.
according, the rec one is the one that's destroyed the most, we'll probably get in
Yes.
touch with the rec tomorrow, and let them take a look at it.
Yeah,
Cover the stuff with plastic if we have to,
yeah,
inside, I'm talking
yeah.
about.
I mean, I would, personally, I'd love to get rid of those sheds. But we don't have
how
any
did
place
there
to
ever
put that
become
stuff.
4 of them? I donated one of them, and when I donated, I went down there, I didn't realize there was 3 others already.
Yeah,
I donated, Mike Porter built it.
yeah.
Oh, that's why I don't recall a cost from the town.
No, it was donated, but I could not believe when I went down there to help him. There was 3 others already there,
And those 3 came from the prison.
Yeah.
and you know, there was kind of junk in them. There was like old computers and stuff that was never gonna be used again, and we were putting another one up, I just couldn't believe it.
It's like a shed farm, that's what I call it. And we keep growing more sheds.
Now, you're gonna get, quotes to repair them, or?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Dwayne's handling it, he's running it, so we're gonna let him
All right.
manage it.
We have we've had someone do repair damaged roofing and siding
Oh, okay.
at the town, at the recycle center. Lean can give you that name of that
Great,
person.
Lean, if you could email that to me, I'll forward that
A
along.
local resident who's
Sure.
reasonable.
Okay. And then there's 2 other trees, big guys, just like this one, right next door to these that can reach the gym and the kitchen if they happen to fall that way. And so I think at some point, we're gonna wanna talk about how do we get them on the ground and get rid of them.
They're not rotted at this point.
Don't know, we didn't know this one was rotted till it hit the ground and
This
you
one
could see
looked-
the inside.
They, all 3 of them looked identical,
Yeah.
except for this one was quite rotted inside.
They're very mature, big pines.
Those
And,
bully type pines with leaders off them.
Yeah.
Those are something that we wouldn't take down in-house in the
Right.
highway department. We'd hire a contractor to, get them on the ground. And we might haul wood away or whatever, but this, one that's on the ground, we're comfortable with cleaning out. That's in our wheelhouse to clean out, that's not a problem. But the other 2, we would get professionals in for that.
Yeah, they are squirrely trees, and I think they're
Lot two.
really the only trees that are in range of our building. I think everything else is back far enough away if it came down with.
And it kind of sandwiched between the septic tanks and the septic system and,
Yeah, and the kitchen.
The thing is, I'm reading the proposal, you're asking for help on taking them down sooner or later, or just maybe within a year?
Yeah, I think within a year, I don't think that they have to come down right now,
Okay.
but we ought to plan for it, whether that's a school district expense or town expense.
'Cause
Depends
this
on
way,
what
next
makes
year,
the
we
most
can,
sense.
we can appropriate, we can budget for it next year and have it done early next year. And
Okay.
I have no problem budgeting for
Ah,
it.
good price on this,
And
that
then,
costs a
and
fortune.
we can look at year end too, if we have year end funds, a little, October, November, we can look at where we are, and if we can, if our maintenance line is
Well,
looking.
let's also take a look at how our project goes over there. If our contingency fund is pretty much intact, maybe we'll look at it later this summer. About
Yeah,
getting a
in
price
other
list
words,
and take them down.
It's something wants to be done, but doesn't have to be done immediately. Gotcha.
Not that I know of. The 2 that are there survived last night and 1 didn't, so, and
They
you know,
don't
we
have
had
big-
really good wind last
Big
night.
dead limbs on them, and I walked around, they don't appear to have cracks in them, but that's.
Well, it hit 49.9 at my house
Oh, it
yesterday,
did?
yeah.
Yeah, it was roaring.
I just have a question about that tree. How long do we have before we can clean it up?
What are you doing tonight?
Guys, something to clean that tree. Well,
Well,
I would like to put it off until school vacation, cause it's pretty crowded down there right now.
Yeah, okay.
Access wise, because of the
Is it-
extra parking.
Is it safe where it's at?
I think it is, yeah, it's
Okay,
off.
then that's fine.
it's-
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I'll let our superintendent know.
That's what I'd like to do, because it's so
Yeah.
congested down there right now.
When is
Plus-
the vacation?
2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Plus, we're tentatively planning on lifting our road weight limit restrictions this week of the 16th.
Yeah.
So that gives us that week, but we got kind of a full plate that week already, and, we'll haul the stuff down in the Kimball Pond pit, so we get rid of junk wood like that.
Yeah.
And with the road postings again, here we are doing it. I mean, it's probably not the end of the world, but
3
so
weeks.
if that's not
Yeah,
a
3
problem.
So-
Yeah.
I don't think that'll be a problem. Keep in mind that during April vacation, they're gonna be swarming over that building.
Yeah, but we could work with them a little bit, now you got the teacher's cars, the school bus.
Oh, yeah, everybody down there.
It's quite a gang of vehicles I noticed when I went over there.
Yeah, okay,
There was another another separate subject, since I got you both here.
sure,
You have fill material that you've dug out, and
right. We can haul it away.
can you use any of the fill material on the bridge?
No,
Okay, just wanted to, someone was asking that
no,
question.
we need, the stuff that they need down there is all select material,
Okay,
gravels and stuff that passes the test.
okay,
This
so
is just clay, burrowy fill.
so I asked before we total it.
It's not gonna be.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions of these two officials?
Jeff, I have drawings for you of the town hall. Do
Okay.
you wanna wait till we meet and go over them, or
Yeah.
do you wanna take a copy?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I might have seen them, I might have them electronically,
Okay.
the ones from Joe Fisher.
Lean, yeah, Lean sent them to me electronically, but we have a revised set, so
Oh, okay.
I wanna
I
go
don't know
over
if I've
that
got
with
it
you.
revised.
I spent a few hours up there the other day, and I think
Do you
I have a good
prefer them
handle on it.
electronically? I can forward them to you.
Yeah, that would be good, because I'll print them on 11 by 17.
And then I'll
I can
send
forward
them Joel's report as well?
Yep.
I have a question from the public, if you don't be so
Yeah,
conscious.
Jeff, it's about the fill that they're digging for, right?
Yep.
Are they, storing that on site right now?
It's on site right now, Tyler.
Well, I was talking to, the cemetery trustees, and they were thinking they might be able to use it at some point. Because out back there where
Okay.
they're gonna be, doing some work at the back of the cemetery, the extension, they said they're gonna need some fill in there. And so they might be able to use it. You might wanna ask them first before you get rid of it.
Yeah, it's not really good material, it's not free draining material, so I don't know if it's the kind that they
But
would want.
my
but
point is, if you
Sure.
get together with them, maybe they can use it before it's gone, you know?
Who are trustees today?
Do you want me to just, I can.
We can take that
put
first.
them out. Don Larson is the chairman,
Don,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Look, John,
We're gonna redo the parking lot up there,
Uh-huh.
by the fire station, police station. There's gonna be some excess material there, but we won't be doing that until later in the year, when things dry up a lot more. And maybe by that time, we could have a plan with the cemetery trustees,
Okay,
and
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
prepare the area where they
Okay,
want it,
yeah.
and move it from there to there.
All right, I'm just,
It would probably.
as long as you're probably gonna
Yeah.
get better stuff there.
Exactly, it's probably gonna be a little better
Okay.
quality than what Jeff
Just
has.
thought I'd bring it up before all
Yeah,
that
plus-
stuff's gone and then they buy it and they could've used it.
The only thing that I see could be an advantage there, that would kinda be like all in-house within the town project, we're doing it, whereas they've got subcontractors.
Yeah, no,
you know,
right,
it
I
just-
understand that.
You know how that gets, it
Right,
just, nobody wants to,
Strict rates.
The
Come in.
problem with that, I can hear Don now, he would probably respond that he's not an expert in the type of material that's needed.
Yeah,
And
well,
what would be
Jeff
the
is.
best.
well,
Jeff
we
is,
just,
So should I have him talk to you? and
Yeah,
say,
he
hey, we got
mentioned
some
it
potential material?
somewhere I saw him, and he mentioned that, about looking at that, and it was still snow on the ground, and it
Right.
kinda took it, we were gonna get together when the weather
His-
got.
I don't wanna be buried in that section.
his remark was he didn't know how much he needed.
Yeah,
And I said,
now we
Stuff
can
we're
dig
digging up
it
over there
out.
is probably
Yeah.
pretty much the same stuff we got right out
I
back
think
here.
that there'll be plenty
yeah,
from
right,
that project we're gonna do, that we could get together with him and maybe organize it all.
Does he go to the copy
school
chat
can
then?
just-
Don
Yeah,
Larson
sometimes,
does?
about 80%.
I don't have to deal with it.
Okay, well, maybe that would be the time to snag
Complicate
him.
your end of it.
Okay,
All right,
gentlemen, thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All set with me?
Yes, I am, sir. I said, we
Thank
wanna
you,
get you in and out of here in a
Thank you.
reasonable
Yeah,
time.
no, if you're all set, I'm leaving. I don't
Jeff,
wanna-
if something changes on this number, let us know.
yeah, well, when we get the final audit, we'll give you the information.
Okay, thanks. Okay, gentlemen, let's continue on. Let's look at summer schedule for a moment.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
yeah,
I hope they're right,
me too.
goodness.
I think, as I said, if I was leaving town, I want it 1 year, but if I'm gonna stay here for the duration, I want it nice, even payments.
Well, this is gonna, I think it's gonna be very helpful for people who are struggling to pay their
Oh,
payments,
absolutely.
pay their taxes.
And the thing is, that they have it 1 year, go up and then have it go right back, go down and go right back up,
Yeah.
it's kinda like,
That's a killer.
yeah, unless they could do the bond, where they can't prepay the bond. Okay, we have some proposals that Lean ginned up for us.
Summer schedule,
Agenda's up for us.
You like that word?
so I made it really simple.
Either one of them's good for me.
Schedule A or Schedule B. So Schedule B would bring us back to our regular meeting starting August 30th. And it would put us on a meeting schedule after July 5th.
Okay,
So I
I'm gonna go
don't
for
s-
Schedule B then.
I am
I
too, this,
think I'm leaning toward, but it's your decision, so they're both the same number of weeks on and off for June, July, and August.
but Thursday after July 4th, I mean, that's gonna be a rough day.
That would be an off on Schedule B, and then that would bring us back to our regular meetings the week after, or the Thursday after Labor Day, which is what we've done in the past, but it's depending on who needs certain times,
Was Schedule B okay with everybody?
Now, I was at the caveat, I could put one workshop in there, somewhere in the summer, like one workshop to work on personnel manual issues.
unless the schedule for the agenda, the regular meeting
Unless
is
we do it,
heavy.
unless we do it
Yeah,
earlier,
yeah.
true.
If they're slow enough, we
If-
should try
oh,
to do that, I guess,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, you could
scheduled,
do the workshop on a different day.
exactly, oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying, I'm with you.
You know?
I think schedule B is the one,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
So just make sure you tear up Schedule A, because I don't want you to get confused.
Give it to me right now, or in the trash.
Alright,
I'm gonna have to line
so
the
I'll
trash
post
up.
the Schedule B on.
I should probably put them in the recycling bucket.
Yeah.
You know, they get recycled, they get pulled out of the trash.
Oh, they get pulled out of the trash? Perfect.
I'll say,
Oh, there we go.
Could have silver.
no, I'm sorry, but they don't.
We recycle them clips too, what?
Yeah, we just did that.
All right, now we are down to the mailbox in town business. All right, I'm glad the school's being proactive with the insurance and they're looking at everything, so I'm gonna leave, just the chief did some great pictures out there. He put it on a CD for us, which is good. There's a thing that came in, Mike Cummings, there's a pipe in this building, behind the town clerk's office.
Yeah.
It looks like it could be asbestos, and we wanna, probably have it tested before it's messed with.
Do you wanna fill him in with how we came up with
I
that?
do you have the
The minutes are in the basket, the joint loss minutes.
joint loss?
And Dave was nice enough to join us as a selectman's rep, and it should have draft on it, joint loss minutes.
Absolutely. It's in here, I saw it.
I think I did it back to back, it might be even closer to the top. There we go, right there. He hasn't had a chance to read them yet, but,
So anyway, how that came up is I went to one joint loss meeting, last year. Bob invited me to one, and we had met, and, we were reviewing the offices here in this building. And in reviewing the office in, the town clerk's office, there was a bubbler there with some exposed piping, and we weren't sure of the material around there. So I kinda brought it back up this year as new business, and, something to try and address, whether we covered up, and, Mike Cummings had dealt with somebody that, tests that stuff and can also repair it.
yeah, he's actually the company that was working in the school.
Yeah.
So that was the first person that any of us, I've tried a couple of companies that never returned my call. And he was able to reach them, so that was really,
So it looks like it's a $480 test.
That's just for the test, yeah.
And then to mitigate, if it is positive, there's the mitigation cost.
Now, I did have JR come in last year after that meeting, and I asked him to look at it. He said he did not think it was asbestos, and he said it'd be easiest to just cover it with a cap,
Right.
a pipe, and I didn't fall through with that.
So anyway, at our joint loss, we determined that if it was truly asbestos, instead of trying to cover it up with plastic and hide it, to have it removed from the building so that it's a safe area, so. Once we get the finalized numbers on it and see if it is, then I guess we'll make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen at that time.
But it requires testing, so I think we have to expend $400 out front.
Right.
I don't have an issue with that, Bob.
No, I
It's
don't.
$480 to test the material.
Cheaper than paying.
But we'll know, and we won't be guessing at that point, and we'll
Right.
be able to make it. It's something that's been ongoing in this building for a long time, so I wanted to put it to rest. In review of the rest of our, meeting minutes here, yeah, I didn't sign that yet either. It seemed to be a pretty productive meeting. After the meeting, we went over to the, police and fire department to look at safety concerns in that building.
That's on the last page, the other reported by Mike.
Yeah. So on the exterior of the building, as you guys know, we increased our budget to try and maintain some of these buildings. The siding on that building is damaged from 8 to 10 feet high to the bottom in various locations because the ice comes off the building. And, so that building is gonna need some maintenance. They do have some siding left in the building, and,
Probably enough to do the job, you think?
well, I don't think it's gonna be enough, cause it's
Is it
substantial.
just white?
It's gray,
It's a great,
and, so they're gonna look at that, get the brand name off the box to see if we can order any more, have it done. And, also we talked about, you know, this would be kind of a quick patch to keep the building up, but at some point in the future, maybe going with some vertical or horizontal cement board siding that would be able to take the impact of the ice
Okay.
on the building. But I think a quick fix is using the stuff we have at hand. There was a basement rail that I saw that could be, you know, going down into the basement area where they have storage. Could be,
Handrail?
yeah, for a handrail 6-footer put in place there. And, 2 of the emergency lightings, had batteries that weren't working on them. One, the police chief didn't think he could get open, so we're gonna have the electrician look at.
I've already sent an email to
Yeah,
one
I saw
electrician.
that.
Yeah,
And then,
I'll keep you in the loop with this, so that
Yep.
you're involved with it, and that way one of you guys.
and there's a switch that John Wigan has in his department that, is arcing, so it's probably got some loose stuff in there.
Which is cheap switches, I mean, there's a lot of cheap switches out there in the market.
And we saw in another area in the police department downstairs in a storage area, they had taken down a partition wall and there was an outlet in the wall and the wires are hanging. So that's another thing that we'll talk with that electrician about. We're gonna utilize the outlet but rewire it.
So it's,
So
means
it's
cold.
not hanging, yeah. So I think that was it. The building overall was in better condition than I thought and, seemed to be clean and neat.
So I believe, Woody had some work done at the transfer station to get the roof repaired, the guy had mentioned that he does siding as well, I
Yeah.
believe. he
That's what
did.
you guys would
Yeah,
decide.
So
Yeah.
I think what I'll
Yeah,
do is
resident and
ask
reasonable.
Woody for his name, and he lives right here in Dunbarton, and see if he can give us a price for that.
Yep, if he can do that, we'll consider it as part of our
Maintenance,
maintenance, but.
yeah,
Okay.
I have no problem. Okay.
So it was a productive meeting.
And then we rehashed the December notes and repairs,
Yeah.
and found that, and aside from just the pipe in the back room, Dave said that open little section of wires has been
Oh.
bothering him for years, or for months. So, if the board is agreeable to reaching out to the guy who just installed the door, see if he can come up with a little,
A cover, a wooden cover to cover
Yeah.
that.
On the superior side?
yeah, just a,
Just on this side, just to cover up them wires.
I've noticed Leo, getting too close to him more than times.
Yeah, you usually tap into them.
and then the other thing that we,
The other thing that we, went over to inspect as well as was, I think all the selectmen might have been over there, is we looked at the library door that Leo had brought up to us in the past that wasn't functioning.
the center door
Yeah.
towards the front hallway.
And
We-
that center door has a panic device on it that doesn't function from one side, the lever side. Works fine on it. I went upstairs when I was visiting the library and the same panic devices upstairs works beautifully. And I was able with Mary to push in on the door to show her that if that closer that had ripped off was working, the panic device functions beautifully. It's that the door doesn't have any pressure on it so that the
It clicks.
rim device is hitting on the striker, not allowing it to act. Because if you do the panic device not in the opening, it works perfectly fine, so. I suggested to get through bolts for the closer, to put it
Yeah.
back on through the door. It is a solid core door, not a hollow core
Oh,
door.
okay, so you think we should try to
It's a
reuse
solid
it?
core birch door, the
Okay.
closer still works, so I'm gonna recommend that we talk to the guy that installed that door to get through bolts.
I concur with that. He did a pretty good job on that
If for
exterior.
some reason that closer doesn't work, I think we should remove the one from upstairs that works freely and put it on that door that needs it right away. And then worry about the upstairs door where there's nobody basically using that door.
But in the meantime too, I think Mary was saying that the, what is it, the lever, the closing lever
Yeah,
was falling off, so she removed that has to be replaced.
that was the closer.
That was the
Yeah,
closer you're
closer.
talking about?
Yeah, and
Oh, there's one upstairs that we could swap out?
Yes.
Okay,
So
okay,
they both have the identical hardware on them, and
okay,
they're all functioning.
okay.
It was taken off because it pulled off the door. And I think they were pushing on the door because the closer wasn't working properly, or the panic device.
Do you think that they can do with both, the handrail and the closer?
Yeah, they're identical, both doors have both same.
So we wanna ask Ryland to check
That's what I'd
that,
like
to
to
swap
do.
it out?
Yeah.
That
If
would
you
be-
wanna schedule a time for him to come here, I could show it to him.
Cause he's coming here tomorrow at 10 to pick up his
I'll
check.
have it 10 o'clock too.
What time would be convenient for you tomorrow?
Are you guys still gonna be in the, men's
Yeah,
coffee chat? Maybe?
Probably.
which door in the upstairs? Is it just one upstairs?
There's only one, when you go to the top of the stairs here, the first stairs,
Yeah,
that door that you open to go in upstairs.
Which is
has
always-
that same panic
and it's
device.
kept open with books and stuff.
And it's a reversible, yep, it's kept open with books.
Oh, so just have him take the.
And that
hardware
one
out.
functions beautiful. I don't actually think you gotta take the hardware out at all. If you'll go around through the bathroom like people have
Right.
been doing, push on the door, you'll see it goes in about a quarter of an
So
inch.
it's just a
And then
closer.
have Bob push on that panic device, it will open perfect every time.
It's a closer that's
If
causing.
the closer was pulling in on that door, I think a panic device would work fine. It's rubbing on the strike plate.
So you just need through bolts on the top,
Through bolts on the closer,
at the top.
so they don't rip out, yeah.
Right, so it's bolted, I know what you're saying, so it's bolted through and through the door.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
just
there's
screwed-
surface bolts on there now.
Right,
They're still in the closer on the desk, so
yeah, you can see the stick hanging
And
there.
the through bolts will go through and bind that door back up.
I was there when that closer got ripped out, and Dodge fixed it with just the same bolts and some, we had nothing, so we just put some wood matches in there and
Yeah,
rebolted it.
and glue?
No
Or-
glue.
No glue?
No, once you do that, it works, but it's not meant for good, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So like you say, if you through bolt that,
Yeah.
then that closer will work.
And there are specific through bolts, I mean, you have to order them like you did the other hardware, but it should be able to be done fairly easy.
Yeah, Stephen Dodge and I were there, and when somebody yanked that door so much, it ripped it right
Well,
out.
Bob and I will be there, you gonna be there tomorrow, Bob?
Probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can take that if you want.
And while we're talking about that building, there's only one last item on there, it's the newly installed door, the threshold, seems to rub more on the weather strip on the bottom of the door, the sweep,
yeah,
than it should, and it's on the latch side, and you can see the paint's already worn off. There was some talk about spending $200 to put a kick plate on,
yeah, I sent that
buying
to
a
you.
kick plate,
Yeah,
and buying a new $72 6-foot, I'm not sure why a 6-foot, but a smooth,
it's a custom door and they only come 32 or 72 when you
It
cut
has
it
to be
down.
cut down.
no 36s.
Nope, we looked.
But what's the
But
solution?
anyway, I think the best solution is to pull up that existing one, chisel a little wood out of underneath it, and then put that one back down, the one that we have,
Oh, okay.
and not buy a new one.
It's taking about,
Okay.
only, you don't need about an eighth of an inch, I'd say, would be more than adequate clearance.
Okay,
Right.
so you're doing, instead of chiseling on the door, doing anything to the door, lift the kick plate, or
Yeah.
Threshold.
the threshold up,
Because
sand
only,
it,
it's only on that latch side where the paint is already worn off the new
door.
threshold.
Oh, okay. Alright,
So, I think that would be a good solution instead of buying anything new, because the new one will do the same thing, I think.
okay. So he's gonna be here tomorrow and I think between.
Now, you know, that was a retrofit door and a retrofit opening. I don't really care that if we have to pay him to do that work, because it's a retrofit anyway. But you know, we did pay him to install that door and it should be functioning, so. I think just
Well,
talk to him about that and work with him, because I don't think that.
Guaranteeing his work is what you're saying.
Right, I mean, we paid, I don't know, $3,600 or $3,800 for that door to be in place, working and operational, and,
That's not really operational.
yeah, so.
Because you're gonna, the more you have to pull in that door to open it, the handle's gonna break off.
Okay.
And I think that he can see that, you know, through some of this other work here, we don't want it to be the last job that he has for the town, whether it's
Okay,
doors on this building or that building, but I think, you know, redoing that sill on his own time would go a long way.
It shouldn't take long anyways.
I don't think it makes a difference whether it was grooved or smooth.
Right, I don't.
You
No,
know,
And
it's
so I
just
think a
too high.
little belt sanding
Yeah.
there, or
Belt-
chiseling it out, or
Dump
chipping it.
sander would be fine.
You
yeah.
got belt sander or hand planer, anything. Take that down and then reinstall, and that way there we don't have to bevel the door or,
The door was fine, it's just the threshold, I agree.
yeah.
Okay, and then, at the same time, we'll have him do some quotes from additional work, so he's getting some more work out of it.
Right, so you guys will show them that work tomorrow morning?
Yeah, so it's essentially the interior door, that's the only part at this point.
Yeah.
Okay,
And he should be able to get gold
The
approval to
interior
match
door
it
and
there
the
too.
outside, the threshold.
the threshold is a part of the warranty.
Yeah, I would just think that, you know,
Yeah, that should be covered under his warranty, I mean, we paid him.
yeah, and I don't mind paying him to install the kick plate
Mhm.
and, you know, do the new work on the other, you know, if it's
Yes.
$200 to do those other items and that kick plate is fine, but I don't wanna pay him to redo the door that he just installed.
No.
Okay,
All right,
So I think that's all I had on the joint loss.
so I'm
just
all
looking
set to
through.
go ahead and get this guy scheduled for this.
inspection,
Yeah, okay,
mitigation to be determined.
And Lean, I think we already have the electrician's gonna look at those exit devices or the,
yeah, yeah, he'll come
Emergency
through
light.
with his paper and he'll go through the two buildings.
that's for you guys to sign off, I think.
Yep.
So that's it. Thanks for, getting me on that board, Bob, it was,
Well, you get a chance to look at the buildings and
Yeah.
see what's going on, you know,
And commit some of our budget line for
well,
maintenance.
yeah, we can get some of this stuff done, sure.
Early.
Yep.
All right, we have just one nomination tonight, we'll approve.
Okay. I'd
That's
like to
okay.
make a nomination for Ken Swayze for the planning board of Dunbarton,
Is
term
that-
ending.
There's actually three there.
Oh,
There
three?
is three. Term ending March 31st, 2021. And another nomination for Allison Valeries for the planning board for term ending March 31st, 2021. And one for Michael Kaminsky for the planning board for term ending March 31st, 2019. I'll make a motion for all three of those to be accepted.
and I'll second the motion.
Abstain? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I guess I could have signed them again, huh, Mike?
Yep.
All right, don't worry about it.
Yeah, man, we're just switching name tags.
Why not? It might work.
Should I write next to it, abstain by, for the record?
No, that's okay. Okay, just got an email next to from Roger Rice, he's staying involved with curbside recycling, he's monitoring what's going on. And I'm just glad about it, he's staying up with what's going on in the field. Also, on a side note, a lot of towns, it's been in the news this week, glass is no longer an issue, is an issue because they can't recycle it, and so it's being forced to be put into the trash. And that's driving up prices for a lot of towns, rather than recycle, because they can't find any buyers for gas recycling. Got a memo from auctioneers that Lean sent out to everyone, all department heads.
Including Mary, she has some shelves, she said, you're moving out of there, and I sent it to her. so-
Okay, it's so,
Make some money,
yep,
instead of giving it away.
goes to the state auctioneers, that's good. If you recall, last week we had some information on, we asked Lean for some legal advice, let me start this again, I don't wanna ramble here. We asked for some legal opinions regarding the RSA, concerning the school board project, the school building project, and we got our opinion. And I had shared that already with the school board, and they announced it at the school board meeting last night. It's highlighted there.
So she stated, do we wanna state what she said?
Yeah.
She stated that based on the information, how we had asked the question, based on only that information, probably not. But is there any harm in going through the statutory process? I think the school board has already thought it would be.
Well, the thing is, it will cause a delay if we went through the statutory process of a 60-day delay.
Right, and I'm glad that we asked that question the way we did last week, because,
It was very straightforward with no,
how we worded the question is a three-room addition to the existing Dunbarton Elementary School, 10% classroom space additional, constitute a substantial change in use or a substantial new use under RSA 674:54. Bob to sign.
yep.
And so that was good feedback to get. I think Jeff would have liked to know that, do we?
Yeah, he just said he went to the, meeting, school board meeting last night, and you told him?
He went to school, I told him, I called him before the meeting, I shared the email with him verbally, and they're not gonna pursue it and waste any of our town dollars with extravagant research with their attorney. I think it's behind us now. I'm gonna move on to the next subject now. We had one applicant come in for, talk about meeting minutes. I estimated based upon her, Lean sent this out an email to both of you,
Can I just speak on it just a minute?
go for it.
Okay, so, I put out a notice that we were looking for a recording secretary. This person called our office, she actually lives in the Nashua area, and,
Can you hold on just 1 minute?
yeah,
How did we become looking for a recording secretary? I thought the new girl was gonna do it that came in.
oh no, she's gonna do the planning board, the joint loss, and other things. I can't ask her to do the selectmen's.
Why not?
We'd be paying her time and a half to do the selectmen's,
Now, the first girl said that she didn't even have enough time to do full-time work in that department.
that's not true.
I don't believe it to be true either.
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought that we were looking to use that girl for our meeting minutes as well. That was my understanding.
I never understood that. Did you? Did either of you? Am I
I think-
mistaken here?
I wasn't gonna, we could offer it to her.
I spoke directly with the other two applicants that we had interviewed, about whether they were available Thursday nights, right in front of the entire board, when we were asking them questions to see if they were available Thursday nights for selectmen meeting minutes. So, when I saw this email, I was surprised to see it, because
No,
I was
the
under
thing
no.
is, it was, I think it was more for the planning
Planning
board
board and
meetings.
zoning board
Because the thing
meetings.
is, we didn't even, we
I
weren't
asked
aware
for
of
Thursday night meeting
Corin
minutes
had
at
not,
that.
Corin did not put out her notice of intent to leave at that time.
No, she didn't, but we had issues with how some of the meeting minutes were being taken.
That's true, that's true.
And I talked directly when we had those applicants in front of us, whether they would be available on Thursday nights, and both of the previous applicants were available. And
We-
so I didn't know that, when I saw this, I'm like, I didn't know we were putting out for this.
I misunderstood completely.
Well, the thing is, we can, there's no harm in asking this person,
Yeah,
and the thing is, payment would we pay her overtime, or would we pay her, have her work less hours during the week?
That's what I was thinking, if we had a,
'cause right now we have a stipend of $100 plus the CPIs as they increase.
so we're doing $100, which in reviewing what you have here for
That's true.
paperwork, it's about $100 as well.
No, it's $200, that's too expensive. That's-
She said right in here, it'd be no more than 100 typically.
For 1
For-
hour.
For 1 hour, we,
We just need to cut you off. But you know, I was under the understanding, we're hiring a person in that department.
okay, all right.
And that person, if we look at what the other girl told us about the hours that she could do in cleaning up that department, we should at least look at that before
Okay,
bringing it
that,
on.
that was not, I'll stand firmly, that was not brought up, but there's no harm in going back and asking.
Right. I believe this, the same as Mike. I don't, maybe I misunderstood because.
Now, you guys might not have brought it up on the second
No,
applicant.
right.
No.
But on those first
Oh, yeah,
applicants, I brought it
and
up.
I'm not denying that at
Are
this
you
point.
talking the first round before we hired
Yes.
Mary?
When we hired Mary.
Right,
When we hired Mary, Mary was gonna come in and do our meeting minutes. I checked with her, once I sat
Okay,
at
so-
that group.
all right.
It's a second
So-
group, it
so-
wasn't.
So we had a girl here, Mary, that was gonna take our meeting minutes, that she had no problem coming in Thursday nights. She moved on from us. I thought when you guys met,
That was not on the,
No.
on the, that's not part of
Only
the job
because
description.
we're looking at a 40-hour-a-week job, we're looking at 1 meeting a month mandatory for the planning board, a potential second meeting for the zoning board,
Yeah.
the plan review that's involved with getting those meetings in.
I know all of the
Right,
circumstances,
right.
Lean,
But-
and that
but-
first girl was willing
Right, all
to
right.
do it.
Noted, but the thing is, the action item here is, we approach the new employee, this one is off the table as far as I'm concerned. But we approach the new employee and ask her if she wants that, and compensation, we'll talk about that. We can either have sliding schedule, or we can pay her the $100 as an extra, like, as we would pay anybody.
But
Thoughts?
I'm looking at, you know, I don't care about paying her the $100 to do it, like anybody would get.
Right,
And or if she needs to cut her hours to 36 hours a week
right,
and do that for,
and the thing is, I'm
4
I'm
hours.
flexible there, that's something the administrator, the town administrator, and she can work out.
Right.
We don't have to get the minutia there.
and now, looking at it, it's an hour or two long meeting here,
Mhm.
and another hour or two in her office here.
It's 4 hours.
Right.
You think so? Have you ever done the minutes?
No, I'm looking at what this girl said for every hour.
No, that's her going rates.
But with this girl here, she would not be attending the meetings.
Right, but
She
she
would
said
only
for
be doing
every
them
hour-long meeting, it
Yeah.
would be between 3 and 4 hours to
Yeah.
do.
Right,
An hour
right.
long
Without
meeting.
attending the meeting.
That's right.
Right.
And so so we're talking about, so let's say 2 hours, we're talking about, say we have a 2 hour meeting on average, 9 o'clock we're out of here. That's 2 hours of meeting time, and then you put another 4 hours on top of that, we're talking about 6 hours.
Right.
That's 6 hours is a long time to do a lot of minutes.
But that's exactly what it would take, even without being
How
there.
long do you
'cause you're
think this week here, do you think?
With this one here, I actually shortened it to seven pages, probably about 5.5 hours. And that's including being here, so there's a difference there with, they're not here listening to a recording and then going by a
What I would like
video.
to try and do is utilize this department person, if we can, in
Oh,
that budget.
I'm all in favor of giving that an honest
Yeah.
try.
And if that doesn't work out, then we can go, I think, and look at maybe hiring somebody outside.
Yeah.
But that's where we'd like to look at that.
But it's interesting to see the quality of her minutes, I thought they were pretty good, but I think she was overpriced for what we need.
Yeah, I think if you hire it outside, I think you're gonna find that
It's expensive,
it's gonna go that route.
Right.
but I don't.
And I felt, I didn't like the fact that she's just doing it from video and recording, and sometimes we hand, like Corin, there was something, we could hand her stuff to make her life easier, like copies of the minute, of the agenda, copies of the handouts and stuff like
Can I
that.
just, I know that you wanna try to do this, and I think I need to sit down and ask her if that's something that she can do. But I see how the department is getting busy, and I see how much Mike is trying to pick up the slack of what needs to be done versus what can be tabled or done at a later date. There's not an hour that goes by, and if he's out on inspection, that we don't get interrupted for a trade permit. And sometimes you're just walking away from the counter, and then another person comes in for a trade permit. And it's not that they're consuming in that you have to review things in detail, but it takes time. You've gotta get a lot number, need to get a license, you need to make copies, they have to fill out the paperwork, you have to collect the money, you have to go in the vault. There's just so many
But
little
that's
steps.
her job.
Well, that's right, that's her job, but for her to have to set aside 6 hours to do minutes in the same 40 hours that she's scheduled to do
And that's
something.
why,
Right now, she's gonna be, the hours for the planning board and the zoning board are gonna be paid at time and a half. That's
When she
4
does those meeting
When
minutes.
she does, when she attends the meetings, and she will try to do the minutes in the afternoon and noontime hours that she's been allotted to do other things like plan review, minutes, status reports, that type of thing.
we could go
So-
a double approach, keep the ad up, and also talk to her about the potential of doing, and paying her, we could pay her the stipend or the overtime.
You
See,
know, Al, I see, and that's going through my head is,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna
Department
find
of
she's
Labor.
an hour employee
I mean,
for 2 reasons. She's
Yeah.
in the state pension.
And she's gonna want, she's gonna
She's
want
doing the
that.
same kind of work she's doing there.
Yep,
So they're gonna wanna see her hours on the state pension.
right.
yeah.
And then with the Department of Labor, they're looking at her as an employee.
Yeah.
And you can say you're paying her 100 like we did everyone else.
Yeah.
Or like the person that did it incorrectly, collecting it the following year or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that, it wasn't the proper way to do
Right.
it.
So,
And we don't wanna step in the same,
so
pile
Corin
of-
fell under the umbrella of a
she was an independent.
independent. Whereas she didn't do anything else in the town, so
So
once
it
you
would have to
start
be-
giving extra duties, whether it's a different department, you still have to pay them the same way that they were hired.
I don't have any problem with that.
But the thing is, but at the same time, it'd be overtime, but we'd have to have her take, like, say, 6 hours less during the week. to-
Yeah, so it's not overtime.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And in reviewing what that girl said
Makes sense.
when she left, of course, she didn't get into the depth of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're sitting there smiling, but when somebody comes in here, we need to make sure their day is full, and if we can at least start off this way, if she's willing to do those hours, we need to try and utilize that for the town, I think.
What's the rate of pay, her rate of pay?
It's about 1970 or 1960.
Okay.
So most likely, it's gonna cost us the same as hiring that independent.
Oh, for that one we just looked at, for sure.
No, it's her hours are gonna cost us about the same.
Oh, no, for sure. I'm agreeing.
Actually, it might come out less than the other person. Cause you guys wanna be specific and you don't wanna be in general, and verbatim costs more money than
Well, minutes
the spirit of.
Minutes don't have to be verbatim unless it's germane to the decision or an action item, and the decision's
But
leading up
we've
to
made
it.
it a point to make it so that it's verbatim.
As close to verbatim as
You're
we
right.
can.
Yeah,
That's why I like when Lean does the meeting minutes,
Yeah,
because they
but I'm
are,
salary, so I fall under that stipend thing right now, that, would that person, this person, be required to be at our meetings? Like Corin was, because then that's overtime.
I think
and-
like Mike said, I think that it would be nice to have her at the meeting.
That's asking someone now to be at 2 meetings in 1 week, possibly 2 meetings in 2 weeks out of the month, if there's zoning at night.
I'd say.
Some of us go to these meetings for free.
Let's not guess, let's just talk to her first, and let's see where we are first, then we come back to this group and we'll talk
I didn't
about
know
it.
you guys pulled that out of the, talking to her as coming onto the town as an employee, otherwise I would've tried to be at that meeting.
So,
The
I
thing
think
is,
the way that even John Trotter and then Ken Swayze, they were so, surprised to hear that, her comment about the place not being busy. That there's just so much that needs to be cleaned up and straightened out in that department. I tried to give someone, an application for a subdivision, and I didn't have any in my file, so I tried to,
that was just an excuse to leave, I don't think it has any bearing, I think her last employer reached out to her and grabbed her back. So, to me, it's just, I mean, I gave her
But I
some,
think we have a person in-house here that we should be trying to utilize.
so what I found though, handing out that application, because nobody was here, the subdivision regs in the files in the computer, the cover is separate from the document, and then the attachments, like the applications, are separate from that, and I tried to emphasize with the previous administrator, this should be one final document, this should be one complete
Oh,
document.
yeah, that whole,
It's just a mess, it's
the
just
whole
so.
department's been a mess for a long time.
And I just feel like if I can get someone in there that understands the land use and zoning, and then is careful enough to pay attention to our regulations and then fine tune those, that's a lot of work to be done. And when you get interrupted on a regular basis, you have to be able to find that right person that can refocus and get back on track and hopefully make some.
Now, as a selectman, how come I wasn't aware that we were putting that job out?
I thought we were talking about it right here.
yes, we were.
yeah.
We were-
When did we talk about putting that job out?
It's been, well, originally Corin was giving her notice and someone here said, put it out to bid to see. for a
Until
little-
that person in that department was hired and could take it over. That's what was said at that meeting. The person, the planning and zoning coordinator, was hired and could take that responsibility over.
Okay, I missed, I
All right,
completely missed it. I'll have to look at the audio.
The thing is, we're going back, and I call this the ugly recrimination phase.
It's not ugly, I saw that email today and I was blindsided that we were hiring somebody because I thought we already hired somebody for the position.
No, the thing is, that was just, it was on Hot Topics, there's a little thing on Hot Topics, that said, we're looking for someone to take minutes. That's all it was, and that was a response to that, and it was on Municipal Association too. And things, that was the first blush, when first came in, and the thing is, that was, in fact, it gave me it opened my eyes to see what a professional, that is a professional, what they would charge and how they would do it. The thing is, my first blush at that is thumbs down, I think it was a little pricey for me, maybe I'm off in left field.
Yeah, I think that might be what we're gonna get.
All right, but the thing is, that was our first blush at that. And the thing is, they have the zoning and planning mandatory to do it. It was never in the job description. And the thing is, during the interview process, it was an add-on we put onto it. We never advertised
But-
that position to do minutes.
And I think what Mary did before she came here, to expand on her expertise, that's what she was doing in her town. She was the administrative assistant to the selectmen, and she did the recording minutes, and that might be where the subject came up, and it might have been, asked, would you be interested in doing it for the selectmen? But that job, if she were like in Joe Marie's position, then yes, that would be something I'd say, this is gonna be part of your job, you're coming over here.
But
This is a
it
completely
was never
different.
advertised as that in our job description.
In our job description, it certainly did say that if
That-
they could do meeting minutes.
Meeting
because
minutes, but the
They
thing is,
have to do them.
but the thing is, particularly for the zoning and planning, but not for the selectmen.
Well, I'm just gonna say for the record,
Okay.
when I interviewed the first batch of people, I specifically asked for Thursday nights and if they could do those meeting minutes, and I got a positive response from both the girls that we
Okay.
had. Now, that's water over the dam, I understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys weren't asking the new applicant.
Because it wasn't part of the job description. We asked for generally about minutes, yes, I can take minutes, I did ask about minutes on these things. It
Yeah.
was pertaining to the zoning and planning, specifically the planning, because planning minutes have been horrendous. They have one of the volunteers are trying to do the minutes. And I wanna make sure, I wanted us to
So
continue to do
now,
that.
we have a girl that's hired, we're gonna go back to her after the fact that she's been hired, and we're gonna ask her to do something that wasn't even part of her original request.
That's what you're inferring to, because you're asking me to do it, we wanna do it in-house, and that's what the proposal on the table is. Do we ask for it, or do we say, just suck it up and continue advertising? Those are the two things we do. I say we keep both options on the table.
Well, I say we ask the girl first, and then if we need to keep advertising it, we do.
Agreed, and those are the two options I'm saying keep on the table. No decisions being made tonight, as far as making, that's not up for decision, and because first of all, I think that's maybe overqualified for what we need, but we need someone. And the thing is, it's getting to a point where the planning and zoning is eating into the town administrator's, work, day-to-day work.
I
And-
apologize if I misunderstood, because even when we talked about the stipend in general, Mike brought up, can she get paid, she's spending 6 hours
Yeah,
on
I
her
have no
own.
problem with that.
And you, I think at that time you said, continue to advertise it, make sure it's advertised, and it went right over my head as far
And
as
Bob
making that other
brings up a
individual.
good point, it's not the stipend, if we have an employee working, she's gonna be one on the payroll, state payroll, and I think Bob's point.
Yeah, number one is, I don't care what they did in the past and how they reimburse that person to avoid a situation, but we already know she's doing that same kind of work for you.
Mhm.
So,
She should get paid the same way.
well, not only that, she's still your employee, and it still has to be reported on her retirement benefits in the state, which triggers the Department of Labor is gonna look at her as an employee. The other thing you have to consider is, we can ask her, but if it's overtime, and she says, I don't wanna work it,
Well, Bob, what I'm looking at is, if she doesn't wanna come in for those hours on Thursday night, and we're gonna have somebody else do it that's not gonna be here on Thursday night anyway, then we
Oh,
should
I-
make it part of her regular
You
hours
know
and
what?
not have her come
I
in.
agree with you as far as this packet,
Yeah.
cause I had looked at it when I got it, so I mean, it's gonna be hard to justify paying someone more than twice what we put aside for that amount of money.
packet is, I think it's,
No, but I think you guys missed my point. If we hire somebody new,
Mhm.
and they aren't gonna be at our meeting like Corinne is and you were,
Mhm.
or Corinne was and you are, what I'd like to do is make it part of her regular daily function to do the meeting minutes verbatim, cause she won't be here, so she won't be able to take it like shorthand, off of our video and or recording. You know, so using it out of her regular hours, in other words, Bob,
Right,
you know.
and I understand, I'm just saying that You know, cause you're bringing a scenario of the planning board, the zoning board, if she gets busy. If it becomes a situation of overtime, having her here at the meeting,
Yeah,
having her doing the minutes of the meeting,
yeah,
pushes her in that position, and you can ask a person if they wanna work overtime, but you really can't make them work
right.
the overtime.
Actually,
There's
something
only
that
a-
pertains to me.
Okay,
Well, if this person doesn't come in at the meeting and wants to use that tape in my video, what happens if my video's not uploaded till Wednesday afternoon?
what's the problem?
There you go.
Well, she'd have to use that.
Just the tape.
That's my point, so what you
The
keep
video is
saying,
just
you keep
nice
saying
enough.
this and that, and I'm like, if this, I have no control when this gets uploaded
Right.
because,
And it's
And
not,
we,
You're doing
and we
it
do
all-
realize that, Leo, the
Yeah,
other
right.
girl had noticed that it was being videotaped, so she mentioned it in her
okay, yeah,
response
just so
back
you
to us.
realize that, because I have no
Yeah.
control over when, I'm not gonna scream at this
No,
other
like
girl
you
who's
said,
doing
that's-
it, because she doesn't get paid either.
That's a free feature of the town,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, gee.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with asking her if she wants to do it, that's not the issue, and if she wants to do it from the tape that we take,
It works,
the
it's,
problem is, if there's a question, we're not here anymore to answer that question. She's playing the tape and doing the best she can from the tape, and then we'll have to continue making all kinds of corrections,
which I was doing originally.
you know, so, I mean, so she may, and then maybe then she wants to come in, you know, if you're looking at the money, it's $140 if you do the 6 hours, or 2 hours here and 4 hours of transcribing or whatever,
Mhm.
you're only going up $40.
at this point,
So
It's a
versus-
savings over.
I'm looking at
but we're not
this
going that route.
information here, and
It could
But the
get
thing is,
expensive.
it can be
In all-
expensive if
all
she does
fairness-
verbatim,
all
and
fairness-
unfortunately, everybody wants their statements reported the way they said them, you know, this is what we said, and it becomes more onerous to write minutes that way, you know, so.
I was just
So this
wondering,
one
'cause I
is
thought we were
really-
using the planning and zoning secretary. but,
As far as I'm concerned, this one though is out of the picture, only because the way we do our minutes and everything, it would become pretty cumbersome.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that was a disconnect then between, the hiring process on the second round versus what you were inferring.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even with, you, in the interview process, that wasn't, the job description was not delineated to say zone, I mean, every week you gotta attend the, selectmen's meeting. It was never delineated that way to her with the first one. If it was, maybe it was for the future, but it wasn't clear, but she was here for a month and she never came to one selectmen's meeting.
Well, we had somebody still.
We had someone still doing it. And the thing is, I think you were, I viewed it, if you even asked that question, which I'm not doubting you did, but the thing is, if you asked that question, it was like a what-if scenario. Because if, well, what if we,
Oh, it was more than one F. I asked them specifically if they could do them or not do them, and they both said yes, they could. do
right,
them.
but that's not, to me, I do not view that as a criteria for hiring the person.
Well, I'll make sure I'm at the next hiring process then.
It's
Then
not gonna
you-
happen again, we got the right one this time.
I guess I will not miss one of them, is what
Well,
I'm telling you.
I disagree, I
Alright.
disagree. I think we should, advertise the job description correctly. If we want someone to take minutes, we advertise.
Then I think we should have added it to it.
Right, but the thing is, I look back and I think, if you wanted Steve to come in here and do our minutes, God help us. That's what you, all right, let's move on. Dunbarton, so the action item, we're gonna talk to this lady when she comes aboard. She's anticipating coming aboard about another week and a half.
Yes, a week and
Okay.
2 days.
And I would still leave the advertisement out there just as insurance, to keep looking, because it takes a long time to look for someone. It's just a little paragraph on hot topics. All right, Dunbarton Activities Report, this is the police department report.
Yeah, I read that on
Yeah. Lean, I'm gonna let you address the budget here.
Those are actually our reconciliation summary sheets, because I've been behind and shorthanded. The reconciliation was happening, but what the auditor likes to see is the acknowledgement of both the treasurer's reconciliation and the BMSI system reconciliation. And because we work on a cash, we work on accrual and she works on cash, there's items to identify, and the summary sheet is the easiest way to look at both parties, both programs. She works with Quicken, we work with BMSI, she has cash accrual, she has cash reconciliation, we have accrual reconciliation, so
How many copies do you have here?
there, one for each month for the last year, and the only one that's missing is December, so.
You require signatures,
On each one of them,
okay.
so
And the bottom line is, you matched, say,
I-
take the bragging rights.
all of those are reconciled with the treasurer, so that was
Dollar for dollar,
dollar for dollar, that's the goal,
and that was met.
correct.
Is this all three selectmen signing?
Yeah, it's just under the first page.
Right here.
Those are flagged for Pam, but under the
Okay.
very first page,
I've got
There's
July
six-
here.
yeah.
You got May.
Yep,
yeah, so there's,
It's every month for
Oh,
last.
okay.
well, I had gone through March, and I started getting some assistance to reconcile the books, and he and I worked together with his system of reconciling, and we were able to comprise all of that onto the summer sheet. And Pam reviewed them and signed them as well.
is that gentleman working out
Yes, working out very well.
and saving town dollars?
I think he's been very fair in his billing.
Didn't he lower it along the way?
Well, he had a dollar figure hourly,
Have-
and
Is he already signed these? Have them all go that way,
Yeah.
and then they can all come this way after.
Or just keep them in a pile, Bob? Oh, okay.
so basically what I've found with his invoices is that he may be here for 8 hours, but if there's something
Sign this one and pass it over to him.
that's not related to the town, he doesn't bill the town, he'll get a bill for 5 hours or something. So that's what-
And we used them, if you recall, in lieu of hiring a full-time,
Use my
part-time.
spot, I'll use yours.
That's fine,
I go to Michael's.
just use it now, Val.
We're gonna keep doing that, right, Lean, using him this year?
Yes, we are, yep.
We're not gonna hire anybody else?
No, I think it's working out well, and he works his schedule
I have no
around my
idea.
schedule, so.
Like I signed one of these, I think these are all done here.
Bob had an idea, so I'm sending them all back to you.
Yeah, send them to him and then bring them this way. I'm just putting Michael Kaminsky where your name is.
You are?
Yeah, well, no, see where you signed?
Yeah,
Where it says Robert Martell.
I signed right here. That's Dave.
Oh, that's Dave.
Dave's doing it wrong.
Dave's doing it wrong.
I signed
Well, there's one of them
Michelle.
that you did, whoops. 45218.
No, I did okay here.
Did I sign on your line, Bob?
You did.
On Bob's or yours?
Bob's.
Okay.
I'm doing it right. Bob, you're on my property.
I'm glad the treasurer signed off on these before us.
That, I wouldn't have you sign it before she did, because it's not fair.
Well, you signed on my line. Hey, you aren't blaming me. What am I gonna do, put arrows to your name? I think we're gonna have to. I don't know how else to fix it. Did you see it?
Yeah.
I don't know how else we're gonna fix that.
Put an X there. You all signed with an X, you wouldn't have a problem.
That's what Mike's looks like, we should all just put that.
There's an M, there's an S, there's a K, there's an I.
Oh, there is? Skaminsky?
It's close enough. Just ask my neighbor. Everyone thinks she's way related to me.
She's in your neighborhood too.
She's across the street.
Oh, you're
It's
kidding.
awful.
Keeps his wives close by.
You're already recording, you know.
It's all right. The thing is, we don't get our mail. Well, mail is never confused. The mail does a good job usually. Yeah, and so it's but the original mailman, when they moved in, he said, put all your names on the mailbox inside so you can see who it is. Okay, got a little note from Mary from the library. She just said, "Dear Bob, Mike, and Lee, And Dave, you too. I would like to be able to get to the meeting tonight. Thanks so much to each and all of you for the tireless help and extra work on getting the library door up and in place. We're all pleased with how it turned out. Extra thanks for the silicone and lemon pledge idea and the new kick plate. The kick plate,
I don't think the lemon pledge is working enough.
no, the kick, and are we gonna put the kick plate?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, on the
I'll
bottom.
end up with
Inside.
people kicking that door anyways, so.
Yeah. Thanks again to all, much appreciated. It was a great team effort. Best Mary, Dunbarton, and the Dunbarton Library trustees.
Is the quick plate already up, or does it need to be installed?
It's gotta be,
Needs to be bought in, so.
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So that $43 or whatever.
That
it
was okay to go.
34, yeah.
okay. I'll send him an email tonight, maybe you can pick it up before he comes in tomorrow.
yeah, and, I'm out of, I'm gonna open up for public comment. I'm out of my inbox stuff. Public comment, sir.
Me first?
You first.
Okay. Hey,
That's enough.
Jeff is opening the roads possibly the week of the 16th. right?
Possibly, yeah.
So does that mean they'll be able to start our bridge again?
The bridge, no, the bridge is gonna be, is to have a certain amount of time, day and night, where it stays above a certain temperature. And so if it drops down below freezing,
Yeah, that sounds pretty hokey though. And I understand that, because I do understand construction, I've done it
Right.
for years. But they did bid with it, expecting to be done by a certain time, and they obviously knew it was gonna be cold anyways.
right?
So, you know, I mean, I think the time is fine right now.
Well, I guess he doesn't wanna, the problem is if you second guess the installers and if there's a
Yeah.
failure and they
Yeah,
can
I
blame it
don't
on
think
this.
there's a problem right now.
Well-
Did Jeff tell you he was waiting for the weather?
Well, I know the weather was, he was waiting on the
Yeah.
weather for the right
And
temperature.
I do understand that, because I've worked that kind of work many, many years, but my point is, when the contract read they were gonna start possibly in January.
Yep.
And be completed by, when? Not June,
I didn't,
it wasn't long,
well,
so meaning they expected to do this work in the winter too, so.
weather permitting though, but
You
that's
know?
the, that's,
Well, yeah,
that's,
I know, but I don't think they expected it to be 60 degrees all
I
winter.
wish Jeff was here to answer that.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Okay, so, right, and-
hold it for one more week and we'll,
but I think they should be able to get on it by
Well,
then.
Lean, do you think we could maybe send, well, I don't know if it's worth sending Jeff an email, but when he comes in, maybe
Ask
Well,
him.
ask him to just address the board, you
Update.
can send us an email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I don't wanna bother Jeff at all about it.
Well,
I'm
we
just-
should ask,
I'm just
he
saying,
might
because
not
I
have
went
called
to-
the guy and said, hey, are
I
you
took a
planning to
ride
come
over
back?
there with my wife recently, and just to show her what was going on, and, you know, and I understand they're waiting for the weather and all, I know that. So like, I told my wife, I said, they're probably really not working on it because of the roads being closed. So they can't
that
get
could be,
on the roads.
that could be possible.
Right, so now, all I'm saying is that the week of the 16th, he's hoping to open them, so I would assume that they will be able to get in there and start working on it.
I would, I don't wanna assume that. I wanna,
Well, I would assume it.
Yeah, but
okay.
that's our roads and he's off state highway, does that mean other towns would have, open roads as well? Or do they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're right, if, maybe Jeff could even let him know that the roads will be opened up in our town.
Yeah, that would be a
Get
good
a
thing
word
to
in
do.
now
sure.
so that it's
Yeah.
that much closer.
Yeah, cause the evening temperature doesn't drop
Sometime
off,
if you
yeah,
don't call
it's
the guy and get
bad,
it
I
back
mean,
in the-
that grout will set
Other projects.
It comes
Right.
on,
at 4 in the
Yeah.
evening, but it won't freeze,
I-
cause we're not getting that kind of temperature.
I think, what Dave, he may be involved in other projects, and if we don't remind him, he may put
Oh,
us
yeah,
to the
right, and
end.
that's part of why I was saying.
Yeah,
is
that's
the-
why, I think if we send him a quick note, tell him
Oh,
our
I-
roads are gonna
yeah.
open up.
And
Right,
we're
and that's a
anxiously
good-
awaiting the completion of our new bridge.
Yeah, right, that's a good, way to address it, is just to give them a little,
Now and then.
well, you know, kinda like give them a little, well, guess what, our roads will be open, so.
Get us on the schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So noted, we will take it for action.
Okay, alright. I'd like to try it out,
The new bridge,
yeah,
I took a drive down to take a look at it too.
yeah.
but you're gonna get over it, it's not in there yet.
No, it was narrower than I thought,
Yeah, huh?
you know, the,
Yeah, right, it's
I
not
thought
cut
with
open
a
at
couple
all.
pieces of steel, we could go right over
It's
that.
not cut open at all, you know?
No, I thought it was gonna be like 12 or 15 feet wide and it's,
Yeah,
what, 5 or
very
6
narrow.
feet.
Yeah, well, they probably still gotta do some digging
Okay,
anyways, you know, so.
I'll bring back to the board, thank you.
Okay.
We don't wanna
We
ramble
don't
on all
wanna
night.
ramble on.
All of a sudden,
Alright, Dave, I'm gonna bring it to you.
I think we covered most everything I had to go over on the town hall. I'm gonna meet with Jeff. I did a pretty thorough inspection up there, what was complete, and what wasn't complete on the second floor. I call it the town hall building, but it's the library building that we call it now. So I have a good handle of what's complete up there and what's not complete. I'm gonna review it with Jeff and, see if we can get a bid from Bowen.
And the thing is, the other thing, we, Lean, we had electrical issues, we're gonna use that as an action item too, for the police and fire electrician?
One thing I had a question for you guys. Bob, last time we went up there, you were there too, Mike.
Yeah,
There was lights in the second floor. You turned them on for
Right.
me, right?
yeah,
The whole second floor lighting was completely shut off. Is there a main switch somewhere I couldn't find? I checked the breakers downstairs were on.
Maybe that's why the exit lights aren't working.
Okay.
So
I
something's
also
wrong.
tried the lights out on the front porch as I went up the stairs. Those didn't work. The lights on the stairs downstairs worked. There's no lights upstairs working and nothing would work in the attic and all the switches were left on.
Oh,
All the switches were in the up
maybe
position.
that's why they're,
Oh.
when we did the, building inspection, 3 of them weren't working. 2 in the bathrooms and 1 at the main entrance was, which is fairly new, it's been.
So maybe
replaced
could we
with
have the electrician check that? I don't know if there's I couldn't find a sub panel
yeah.
anywhere
I don't know.
upstairs.
Yeah.
There's 2 panels downstairs, there's a sub panel, which is more for the new library items. And then the main 200 amp panel is there, and it's labeled second floor 2.
And it's nothing, they're all on.
But I remember those lights working.
Yeah.
Mary says to me, I never saw lights on here. I said, I know there was lights when Bob made me go up.
Oh, yeah, up
'Cause
in
I
the
was
attic.
Up
surprised.
in the attic, they were definitely
Yeah,
lights, the
yeah.
switch is right over the little.
Yeah.
Sounds like Christmas vacation.
Yeah, so nothing would work up there, so I used my
Oh.
phone for the inspection.
Oh my, okay, alright, well, that's good to know.
So if we have the electrician check into that for an action item,
Maybe that's the problem.
Is he gonna
she's
also
having
look at
with
police
the,
fire department?
Fire alarm too.
yep, she already emailed me.
Oh, the fire alarm
Yeah.
too?
What's been acting up?
Upstairs. Only upstairs. The one upstairs been acting up.
So I don't know, maybe there's a main switch or something I couldn't find, but I,
There's probably some old guy's spirit up there that's, says that enough is enough, get these lights out.
All right,
so that's all I had, Mike.
Bob, to you.
Oh, well, I have one thing,
Is stuff on the back of this?
sometimes we kick around what people do or don't do, and I have to give Woody credit that the NRRA did a pretty good report on the transfer station.
Yeah,
And actually, for the time being, as far as if you read the report, utilizing the truck makes sense, and,
yep, we're in a good place, is what
I
I'm telling
didn't
you.
have time to read that whole report.
It's in your
Yeah, I
inbox,
did- I
figured
saw
it'd
it.
be easier for you to read.
there's just a few criticisms, but they're just with the placement of bailers or whatever.
that, yeah.
And, but for the most part, things are running better than they probably anticipated it would be.
I gotta say, for, early spring, most dumps, when the snow melts, are in terrible shape. I was there a week ago and that place was spotless, I couldn't believe how
Still is,
clean. You know, our snow was melting back and
Yeah.
the guys were sweeping that day in front of the canisters, so kudos to his workers too, cause it was clean there.
Yeah,
Okay, Lean, to you?
That is posted on the website, by the way, under the transfer station.
Clean,
No, the
No, I
report.
put a nice little comment, striving to provide quality service to the Dunbarton residents, and then I put that report there, cause I
Oh,
thought it
that's
had
good.
some good, comments on there.
To you, Lean, anything else?
No, that's it for
and
me.
you don't wanna keep doing our nice meeting minutes, cause we like it when you do them.
If you stop rambling, it might be easier to do them. Cause I have to listen to them twice, not
Yeah.
once, be present.
Probably more than twice, right?
Yes.
Okay,
That's all I got.
the one thing I have is just that, remember we pushed off the good work that the police officers did on the ordinances for the town,
Mhm.
noise and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I just wanna get those, maybe 2 weeks from now, let's put it as an action item so we can review those and implement those, because it's just gonna be approved by us, then they can be implemented by the.
They have to be reviewed by our town attorney.
Right, so 2 weeks, a good time frame.
Do you think the town attorney will have time to review them in that length of time?
What I remove the logo and header and just put it in our policy format that the town has been using for all of the other policies, which shouldn't take a lot. but I have to get it in Word, I can't get it in PDF, otherwise I retype the whole thing. And right now I only have them in PDF, so I'll ask
Oh.
Chris for them in Word,
Word.
and then, I'll send them to you first for your input, and then if you say the way it's written is adequate, as presented from the police department, have them review, the attorney review it, and then we can
What
go.
was there, 5 ordinance, I think, right?
Yeah, he had a bunch of them, one was the noise and one was a bunch of things.
We
Okay.
have ordinances, but they were never approved by the select boards, right?
Yeah, we thought they had to go before the legislative body, then we found out we don't have to, just by this body right here, and we can do it from there. Okay, that's all I had.
That's all I have.
I'm waiting for a motion, gentlemen.
Motion to adjourn.
At 8:36, not too bad, Mike.
No, I'm trying before 9 o'clock. I'm trying to stop the rambling, so the thing is, move this stuff on. Now, like, people picking up.
Leo made me ramble.
Huh?